Welcome to episode number 52 of Hitting for the Cycle. That's Ben Kruse. I'm Ryan Touhey, and the Major League Baseball postseason is currently ongoing, and we have one series that has concluded in the National League Division Series. There's still a few more going on around the league, though. But Ben, how are you doing this morning?
Doing good. We obviously last show we did by VSR videos, so for those, make sure to watch those. But yeah, I'm doing good. We get the chance to kind of go through some of the postseason together today, Ryan, and yeah, it's just been really exciting. This postseason, I know obviously postseason baseball should be exciting, but something just it feels different this year. Like just there's so many great games back and forth, really good series. Just makes it all just that much more entertaining. So, really excited for the games tonight and to see specifically what happens to moving on to the National League Series, well, the Championship Series. We have one team, but the American League Championship Series will be coming soon. So, doing well.
Yeah, I agree with you. No offense to fans of all the other teams from last year's postseason, but I think it's safe to say that this year's postseason has been much more entertaining this year than last year. And again, no knock to any fan bases whose team was in last year, but it was just a very forgettable postseason last year. And baseball, I think, needed to have a little bit of a wake up call for the postseason this year and have a little more excitement and I think there were more intriguing matchups this year for the postseason compared to last year. I think that certainly helped out the cause. But yeah, it's been, like you said, all the series have been pretty tight, well played games. And we're getting more and more deep into the postseason. And we're going to talk about that and other things around the league. But before we do, we just want to remind everybody to please follow Hitting for the Cycle on Facebook, X, and Instagram at HFTC ETB. Follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network. Follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network, right below here. And finally, listen to us on whatever platforms you listen to your podcasts on.
This episode, folks, is always presented by our friends at Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everybody perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. We're obviously in talks currently right now of doing NBA basketball, which is going to be coming up in a couple weeks. My Celtics will be playing the Knicks in the first game, rain night for the Celtics. And we also have another game. I'm pretty sure, I think it's Minnesota and the Lakers. So make sure to join in for that stuff. Hopefully we'll be having that stuff ready. We got WNBA playoffs. We have a bunch of stuff. This is obviously the most best month, I'd say, of the year. So we got a lot of stuff coming up with Playback, and make sure to join all that fun stuff.
All right, so we're going to begin this episode with some sad news, unfortunately. So, on the last day of September, Major League Baseball mourned the loss of all-time hits leader Pete Rose, and unfortunately, just a week later, we have to mourn the loss of another old-school baseball player, Louis Tiant. He was a Major League pitcher. He pitched for the Cleveland Indians, Minnesota Twins, the Boston Red Sox, the New York Yankees, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and the California Angels from 1964 to 1982. He passed away on October 8th at the age of 83, same age as Pete Rose did. Tiant was known for his distinctive, funky delivery on the mound, where he literally would turn his body facing second base, basically, and then turn it all the way back, and it would deceive the hitter, and it was effective. And he was he had a very funky delivery, and it worked for him. And Tiant had a very, very long career and a very solid career as well. I'm looking at his stats here right now on Baseball Reference. He won 20 games, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. His best season was 1968 when he went 21-9 with a 1.60 earned run average, which was the lowest in the American League. You could have made an argument that he was the best pitcher in the American League and should have won the Cy Young Award that year. However, that went to the Tigers' Denny McLain, who won 31 games that season, as the Tigers were on their way to a world championship that year. But yeah, Tiant was a three-time All-Star in 1968, 1974, and 1976. He was the ERA leader, like I mentioned, in 1968, and he was also the ERA leader in the American League in 1972 with a 1.91 ERA. Played for the Indians from 1964 to 1969. Played 1 year with the Twins in 1970. The team that he played for with the most years was your Boston Red Sox from 1971 to 1978. So that was 8 seasons there. Pitched 2 seasons with my Yankees from 1979 to 1980. So one guy who is a member of the Yankee Red Sox club. And he pitched another season in 1981 with the Pirates and pitched his final season in 1982 with the California Angels in 1982. Tiant was also a World Series hero for the Red Sox in 1975, even though the Red Sox lost that World Series. He pitched a complete game shutout in Game 1 and also had an RBI single that game. So Tiant was also very well known for smoking long Cuban cigars during his playing days, and his teammate Tommy John, I believe it was, or I don't know if they were teammates, but Tommy John said that Louis would smoke these horrendous long Cuban cigars. We'd be on the bus all night. I guess they were teammates. I forget which team. I think it was with the Yankees actually in '79 because they were both there. Tommy John said Louis would smoke these long, horrendous Cuban cigars. We'd be on the bus all night and wake up to a thick blue haze from Tiant's ropes. Tiant had an almost supernatural ability for keeping a cigar lit, and he cut up in his high-pitched voice, joking, cackling. The eternal flame held true, and he could even take a shower and keep his stoogie going. In the confined space of a bus, the smoke would gag you. He'd fall asleep on the bus, but the cigar would somehow stay alive all night. So, yeah, Tiant was 83 years old. He definitely seems like, obviously neither of us were born during his playing days, but he seems like he was an early incarnation of Nestor Cortez, except more successful and more dominant, I would say. No offense, Nestor Cortez, but yeah, Tiant, very long career. There was debate on whether I think there's a debate as to whether or not he should be considered for the Hall of Fame. I mean, you look at his numbers and you look at his stats; they're very impressive. But he has not ever gotten inducted into the Hall of Fame. We'll see if the Veterans Committee might consider it a little more in the coming years. But I mean, you look at some other guys who are in the Hall of Fame. Honestly, I think Tiant's more deserving than some other guys who are in the Hall of Fame. And but yeah, Louis Tiant passes away at 83 years old. So rest in peace to Louis Tiant, and condolences go out to his family.
Yeah, just really tough news for the Tiant family. Yeah, obviously it was like you mentioned, we weren't really born when he kind of had his early part of his career, but I think when you look at it as a whole, he had fantastic numbers. He, of course, played with a lot more teams than I expected. When you read them, like, man, he played with a lot more teams out there. But when you essentially just type his name in, they said that the Red Sox are pretty much kind of the team, of all the teams that he would say most recognized for. He actually passed away in Wells, Maine, which I'm pretty familiar with. That's close actually to where he used to have a house up there. So very kind of knowledgeable of kind of area. But yeah, it really sucks. Really just sucks for baseball just in general. I mean, he seemed like he was an overall figure in the game, and it's really tough news. He played for baseball for 19 years. Wikipedia, I know obviously when I just put his name in right now to the Red Sox, but it also said the Cleveland Indians were kind of another one that he was most recognized for as well. So, just my condolences. My prayers go out to Louis and his family. And just we lost a really good person, not only as well as a player.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention that his father was actually a pitcher in the Negro Leagues, Louis Tiant Sr. And Tiant Sr. played for the Havana Red Sox, the Cuban
Mm.
Stars West, the Cuban House of David Pollock's Cuban Stars, what a name that is,
Yeah.
and the New York Cubans. And Tiant Sr. was a two-time All-Star in 1935 and 1947, and he was a member of the 1947 Negro World Series champion Cubans. And because I'm such a big baseball fan, I remember watching a video of a 1975 World Series Game 6. I believe Tiant actually got to start that game. That's obviously the game where Carlton Fisk hit his memorable home run down the left field foul line. And the camera pointed to a shot of Tiant Sr. in the stands right before Louis Tiant took the mound for the Red Sox. And it's pretty cool to see that that his father played in the Negro Leagues. And Tiant definitely carried on his legacy. It was a very great career that he had. So I knew that he was getting up there in age, but I didn't know obviously what condition he was. I would always see from time to time, because I follow a lot of baseball pages on Facebook and Instagram. I'd see pictures of Tiant posing with another guy that he used to play with or play against in the 60s or 70s. And honestly, I thought he looked good. So I didn't know what kind of state he was, but I guess the death was a little unexpected, kind of similar to P. Rose. I mean, the P. Rose one was a little more unexpected, I think, than this one. But regardless, Louis Tiant is now rejoining Pete Rose up in heaven, and I'm sure they're going to be playing some baseball against one another. So
Yeah.
rest in peace to Louis Tiant.
Mhm.
And now we'll move on to a little more happier news, I think. Terry Francona is back in baseball. He is now the new manager of the Cincinnati Reds. Terry Francona obviously last managed in 2023 with the Cleveland Guardians after spending a decade there at the helm with both obviously when they were both the Indians and the Guardians. And he obviously led Cleveland to a pennant in 2016. This is going to be Francona's fourth different managerial stint. He obviously managed the Phillies from 1997 to 2000, managed the Red Sox, obviously, from 2004 to 2011, leading them to 2 world championships.
Yep.
Cleveland, like I mentioned, from 2013 to 2023. And now he's back for 2025. He signed a 3-year contract, I believe, with the Reds. So he'll be the Reds manager for 25, 26, and 27. And it was a little shocking because, people thought that he had stepped away for good due to his health reasons. He's had a lot of health problems in recent years. But the Reds, they're trying to get back to contention. And they felt that with a guy who has the resume and the accolades that Francona does, he might be the guy that can help turn that franchise around. They may be looking for Francona to do what Bruce Bochy did with the Rangers, and that's get them to the World Series, especially since Cleveland has been the team in Ohio for the past decade now, and Cincinnati hasn't sniffed a postseason in quite some time. So, obviously you're familiar with Francona. What are your thoughts about this?
First of all, I'm really happy for him. I was first of all when I saw the news, I was really shocked. This kind of just came out of left field. Typically, when you hear like baseball news, typically there's some type of rumor or kind of something that's leading up to it. I just got the breaking news from Jeff Passan. It just said, I think maybe it was from Mark Feinstein that first broke it, and then Jeff, put it after. But he just said Terry Francona managing back up, and I'm like, what? Like, I'm just like, I thought it was like one of those like fake type of things. I like just had to double check it, and I was really happy. He's obviously done a lot. Of course, he was one of my favorite managers for the Red Sox. Just very consistent, and he's just a players manager. Players manager too. A lot of players just love him. It's really interesting, Ryan. I was watching a interview actually with Terry. I think it was with Scott Braun on the Foul Territory podcast. and they essentially were asking Terry about just his overall kind of, year of stepping away from the game. And apparently, one of the reasons why he stepped away was obviously he was kind of dealing with the health stuff. But two, he basically was saying that he didn't feel like he was at the point in time that he was doing the best he can to be successful with any type of team and organization. So he had to kind of maybe take a step back and kind of be like, can I specifically get myself back to that state of mind? And I guess at that point in time, he really wasn't. But now, specifically this year, he feels like that he can get back to that. He doesn't have to lead the state. He was with the Guardians, so he can stay in Ohio, and he's going down south and, managing a team with the Reds that's really young with some young talent like Ellie De La Cruz. I mean, he's going to be able to manage a really young phenom, and hopefully, if you're looking at the Reds, you can get some more talent around that team because I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team within the years of Terry, but I do think that they could be very competitive, and they definitely have a chance to be in terms of a playoff team because he has a pretty high standard, and he just sets the bar probably higher out of any Reds manager that they've had probably in a while. The Reds just haven't had a lot of great overall managers. They've been okay, but I think if Terry can come in and put his best foot forward with some of the moves that maybe the Reds can have in the offseason. I don't know in terms of the overall payroll, but I'm really happy for him and just wish him well, unless it's against my team.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, the Reds last made the playoffs, and I guess if you want to count it, the last time they made the playoffs was 2020,
Yep.
and they were swept in the wild card round by the Braves. The last time before that was 2013 when they lost the National League wild card game to the Pirates 6-2. So they haven't made the division series since 2012 when they lost to the eventual world champion Giants in the NLDS, and they lost that series 3-2. And the Reds really have not had any postseason success for almost 30 years, for over 30 years now. Really, the last time they had any kind of success in the playoffs was the last time they won the World Series way back in 1990. And I mean, they've made the postseason only 4 times after that, or 5 times after that, which was 1995, 2010, 2012. 2013 and 2020. Actually, the last time they did win a postseason series was 1995. They won the National League Division Series over the Dodgers that year. But still, that's 30 years ago too. So the postseason has not been kind to the Reds, and they definitely are looking to, like I said, get back to respectability and to start to right the ship and to start, blossoming this young core group of talent that they have assembled on their roster. Obviously, Ellie De La Cruz now is the face of the team, and they're going to be trying to build around him and hopefully get back to the playoffs within the next 3 years of Francona being at the helm. Me personally, I think what do the Reds have to lose? David Bell. David Bell wasn't really getting you anywhere. You had to make a change, in my opinion. And I think Francona, with his history, I mean, when he took over the Indians back in 2013, they weren't really going anywhere. And within his first year of manager, he led the Indians to the postseason and the wild card. I mean, they lost to the Rays that year, but I mean, it took one season for him to turn that franchise around. And, that franchise, went up after that. Obviously, the peak was, leading them to the 2016 World Series appearance against the Cubs. And even though they lost that World Series, I mean, nobody really expected Cleveland to win the pennant going into that season. So
right.
Francona is one of the best managers in history, if you ask me. I mean, he's got 2 rings for a reason. And I mean, he also led the Red Sox to the greatest comeback in sports history. So, yes, even as a Yankee fan, I will admit that. You can't
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You cannot deny that Francona is a great manager. And like you said, players love playing for him. He knows baseball. And I think this is a good move for the Reds. And I think they got some bright days ahead of them. So we'll see where they go. So we'll see where they go from here in 2025. It should be interesting. So, and also the National League Central, I mean, it's been dominated by the Brewers over the past couple of seasons. And with all the wild cards now, I mean, it doesn't
get somebody else besides the Brewers, please.
Yeah.
I mean, they drive me crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm like, we're
especially
not even Brewers fans, but we just know the overall story with them, Ryan.
they'll
They
have
get in, and it's like it reminds me of it. And I hate to cross sports, but it reminds me of one team in football and one team in basketball, and it's just like, oh my god, just somebody else, please.
yes. We hear it. Well, actually, the one in football, I thought you would be a little more happy. I guess we're thinking of different teams. Were we thinking of the because usually when it was coming to football, it was the Patriots. I wanted somebody else. I mean, now it's been a while since the Patriots have been good.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just talking about like a team that gets in and just chokes consistently, like
Ah,
the Brewers.
yes, those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But yeah, Francona is returning to the diamond next year, or returning to the dugout, I should say, and he will be managing the Cincinnati Reds for the next 3 seasons. So we'll see where they go from here. Okay, now we're going to move on to a little more serious topic. So we're recording this right now on Thursday, October 10th. Hurricane Milton struck Florida yet last night, overnight, October 9th. First of all, we just want to send all of our thoughts and prayers to those who were affected by Milton. Both of us have family down in Florida, so we've been in contact with them. And hopefully everybody is safe and sound in that region where the hurricane struck, unfortunately. And unfortunately, Hurricane Milton was a Category 5 hurricane, and the state of Florida hasn't dealt with a hurricane of that time, so it's a very serious situation. And unfortunately, the hurricane was so serious and strong that it knocked the roof off of Tropicana Field. And Tropicana Field was going to be a place where first responders were going to be held
Mhm.
to help out other people who were affected in the St. Petersburg, Tampa area. It's going to be a place for shelter. So when I saw this, I was like, crap. And then I also said, why am I not surprised? Because Tropicana Field is just an absolute crap hole. And it's serious. It's a really serious matter. It's horrible. And I mean, they were going to rely a lot on that stadium to help them get to and from wherever somebody needed to be. They were gonna, I believe, store medical supplies there, and food and water, wherever it may be. And now Tropicana Field. I mean, I haven't seen any pictures of what the inside looks like yet. I don't know how much rain got inside. I'm
Mhm.
assuming quite a bit. So I mean, if it rips off the entire roof of a stadium, then I can only imagine how the interior looks. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very serious situation, and I mean, this is more than, I mean, obviously this goes beyond baseball. Obviously, this is a life and death situation. Like we said, this hurricane is very very serious, and it's probably one of the worst to hit Florida in quite some time. The Tampa Bay area hasn't really been directly hit in a while. I think it's been over a century, actually, if I'm not mistaken, where it dealt with a hurricane of this strength. Um, so yeah, it's very sad. But hopefully, the stadium can still be used to some extent. Hopefully, they're able to use like the clubhouse areas and the more dry areas like the concourse to keep things stored, and hopefully there's still that place is still able to be used. But I mean, now when it comes to the race for next season, I mean, they may not be able to play at that stadium. Maybe there could be a possibility. I don't know. I mean, it's October. Season obviously starts in March and April. Obviously, they're going to try and work on it when they get the chance. But obviously, the main focus right now is to help those who were affected by Hurricane Milton. So, did you see the video?
I did, yeah. And just like you mentioned first, just want to send my condolences and my prayers out to Florida. Just absolutely just crazy stuff that's going on down there. I feel like I've been a meteorologist throughout this week, and I don't really watch the weather a lot. I should be a lot more, but just the craziness that's been going down there. Like you mentioned, we have some family both down there. My grandfather is about an hour south from Tampa. So just really thinking about him right now. People have been losing power. The people that have had a lot of power lines going down. The water essentially that's been coming up from a lot of the houses, and just all the debris that was shown in a lot of pictures from yesterday. It's just really tough stuff, and I know that Hurricane Harvey over in Houston. They relied, and in terms of just the city and stuff, kind of really power through that afterwards. Just really eye-opening stuff. But we really want to make sure that everyone is safe and everybody's making sure that they have the right type of assistance if they need some assistance. So, but overall with the trop, just crazy stuff. It's obviously been a place that's been down in St. Petersburg for a long period of time, and just not even see the roof right now. It's just absolutely obviously we kind of clown and joke around about the trop being an absolute dump, and which it is, but just from that specifically to see like no roof is just it really sucks. Um, we don't know in terms they'll be ready by next baseball season, but that's kind of the least of our worries honestly right now. More of our worries right now is just to make sure people down there are safe and obviously it's bigger specifically than sports. It's a category 5. It's something that's extremely severe, and something that if I was down there, I'd make sure to get out of there as quickly as I can. The evacuation plans and everything like that. And I remember dealing with Hurricane Sandy in Connecticut
Hmm.
when I was younger, and it was really crazy, like being down in the basement and just the whole entire life cycle. It was just everything had to be different than we're kind of accustomed to. So yeah, just my overall thoughts really. This is obviously the store we're having that's broken here, and hopefully that they can kind of figure things out down there for that, but the bigger eye-opening type of thing is just the people and just making sure that everyone's getting their own assistance, so the state and everybody can just be in a much better place by the end of it.
Yeah, and I'm just reading this article off of ESPN. Also, over 20 tornadoes were apparently reported in Florida. So this storm was just devastating. But I'm just reading the article on ESPN right now. The ballpark was going to be designated as a staging site for first responders and state and local emergency management services,
Yep.
who are going to be aiding with debris removal around the state. And it was set up to accommodate 10,000 people, and they were going to be set up on cots basically. So you were going to have a bunch of people sleeping on cots around the ball field and in different areas around the stadium. And the roof, the fabric that the roof is made of, the term I cannot pronounce because it's just too damn long. I'm gonna butcher it, so there's no point in that. But basically, it's stronger than glass, but it's also lighter. It's
Mhm.
much lighter than that. And according to the Rays, the Tropicana Field was built to withstand winds that were up to 115 miles an hour,
Yeah.
and the roof is supported by 180 miles of cables around, connected by struts. And I'm looking at the picture right now after the ESPN provided a picture of an
Yeah.
aerial view of the stadium after the roof
Collapse.
was ripped off, and the roof pieces of the roof are just lying on the field right now inside of Tropicana Field. Literally, it looks like a peep. I don't know how. I guess the best
It
way
looks
that
like a movie scene, like a horror movie scene.
it
Like,
looks like it looks honestly, I'm equating this to like a piece of cloth being ripped off a table, basically. Like
mm,
it was there 1 minute, and then you just like yank it, and
mm,
that's basically what this is. And that's the best way I think I can describe to put it. I mean, there's only a few pieces of the roof that remain on top, but I mean, I'd say about 90% of the roof is gone on Tropicana Field. So it's bad. I mean, it does look like the interior for the most part's okay, but they're obviously going to just have to clean up the pieces of the roof that fell through the that fell through. But yeah, I'm also just reading Florida, Ron DeSantis, obviously the governor of Florida. Um, he said that Milton was a significant storm, but not the worst case scenario. And he said to reporters that the worst storm surge appeared to be in Sarasota
yep.
County. That's and
What I heard.
so yeah, it's bad regardless. I think they'll still be able to use the field to a certain extent. Obviously,
It doesn't look awful. The field itself. It's just the roof. I mean,
No,
it's just,
yeah, I mean, the field I think should be fine, but the
mhm,
roof, yeah, I mean, the roof is just like I said, it's gone basically. So
mhm.
I mean, we'll see what happens there. Right now, obviously, the main concern is to make sure that people are getting the help that they need because this is gonna be a tough time. This is going to take some. It's probably going to take a few years to fully recover from this disaster, unfortunately, which is never what you want to hear, obviously. And unfortunately, some people's lives are going to be changed forever. And I mean, hurricanes are no joke. I mean, like you mentioned, I mean, we both dealt with Sandy.
Mm.
Fortunately, I was in an area obviously very fortunate that wasn't hit very hard, but
Mine was.
uh,
Um, we actually had storm coverage. I mean, in our downtown, essentially, we have some like houses that are right by the beach, and some of the houses legitimately like were pretty much close to being knocked out. Like it was just that bad.
yeah. I mean, that's all the information that we can provide for you guys right now. Unfortunately, if you want to find out more about Hurricane Milton, you can look it up online and see any updates. You can also turn on the news, obviously,
That's
um,
everything.
and obviously this is going to be covered for quite some time. And yeah, I mean, regardless, I mean, I think it's good that they have, a venue the size of Tropicana Field to help them out. But and I think they'll still use it. But yeah, I mean, not having something to cover themselves is definitely going to be a problem.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess a lot of people are just going to have to find somewhere else to sleep, which is not good. So yeah, Tropicana Field took a hit, and we'll see in the coming months if that's going to affect where the Rays play. But obviously, like we mentioned, that's second to Hurricane Milton and the devastation that it's brought upon the state of Florida. So that's
Mhm.
that. Now we'll turn our attention back over to baseball, and yeah, it's kind of it's weird how we go from the most serious issue you can talk about in this episode to baseball. But the league division series in both the American League and National League kicked off last week, or over the week. Yeah, over the
Yeah,
weekend.
on
Yeah.
the weekend. Mhm.
Yes. So we've had one series that has ended. So today, obviously, like I mentioned, is October 10th. And we have one series over, three still remain as of the day of this recording. The series that concluded was the Mets over the Phillies. The Mets defeated the Phillies in 4 games, and they won last night by a score of 4-1, winning the series 3 games to 1. I want to give myself a pat on the shoulder because I predicted the Mets over the Phillies. I did predict them in 5 games, but
Mm.
I did predict Mets nonetheless. And
You did.
last night's game was a wild game, and the Mets won the game thanks in part to a Francisco Lindor grand slam of Carlos Estevez. I think
Mm.
he hit in the 6th or the 7th inning. I forget the inning off the top of
6.
my head. 6th inning, and
Mhm.
the Mets hung on to win 4-1. And honestly, Ben, you look at that series. I know that series went 4 games, but for the most part, the Mets dominated that series. I mean,
Mm.
the Philly bats were silent for pretty much most of that series, besides Game Two. Um,
Uh-huh.
and the Mets pitching was phenomenal.
Yep.
Sean Manaea was tremendous in Game Three, going 7 scoreless innings. Um, Last night, Jose Quintana shut the
Yep.
Phillies down as well. And the Mets obviously showed their resiliency in Game One, coming back in the later innings off the Philly bullpen to take that game. And yeah, the Mets just continue to roll. They continue their momentum that they've been building for since the summer, and
Incredible. Mhm.
it's absolutely amazing. And you think about where the Mets were at the end of May when they were 11 games under 500, and now they're
Mm.
playing in the National League Championship Series for the first time since 2015.
Mm.
What a story! What an absolute story! It's remarkable. It really is. I mean, obviously, I'm a Yankee fan, so I don't really care about the Mets, but you can't deny that this is one of the most unlikely stories, or one of the most unlikely teams you would have thought to have reached the NLCS this season. Probably
Mhm.
maybe the unlikeliest team you'd ever think. But yeah, I mean, the Mets have just been a juggernaut.
Mhm.
They're a very cohesive unit. In my opinion, they're the tightest group. They all rely on one another. They get contributions from everybody. It doesn't matter what game it is. It doesn't matter what the scenario is. Everybody has pitched in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's really been the key for them, that they don't have to rely on one player. I feel like, with a lot of teams, I've been very critical with the Yankees of how they rely so much on Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. I've been critical about the Dodgers, who rely a lot on Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts. But the Mets, 1 through 9 is dangerous, and anybody can beat you on any given day. And the Mets definitely deserve to win that series. So, congratulations to the Mets.
Yeah, just absolutely, oh my God, all, no pun intended, but just an incredible second half run for them. And I was talking with Nick, shout out to you, Nick, the other night about this Mets, obviously the secondary run, and just like, they just had to get in. And, they obviously had to face the Braves, they obviously first they had the Braves, and, there was that big storm that hit, and then they had to go play the Brewers, and then they go back to play Atlanta. And in that same week, Ron, I mean, they were barely home, but they essentially were playing a lot of baseball. And I think with the Phillies, and you're seeing a lot of teams now, that the teams that are on the buys, and this is not really much of an excuse to some of these teams, but it just doesn't seem like, at least in the last couple of years, that it's been more of the wild card teams that have been having the momentum. Because they've been playing a lot more, and the Phillies. I picked the Phillies to win this overall series just because of their postseason experience, and I thought that they're just hungry enough to get back to the World Series, and they just did not look good at all. The Mets. I agree with you; they just complete dominated them, even though the games were close. I mean, like yesterday. I mean, there was one knock that for the Mets, and it's honestly not really a knock because I think that he was overly fine, was Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz, I think in some of the games was extremely wild. The game yesterday, they won 4-1. I mean, the 2 walks was absolutely inexcusable. They had to warm up Brian Stanek, and the manager for the Phillies needs to go. Rob Thompson. He is just, in the bottom of the 6th inning. It was JD Martinez got the single, which, by the way, thankfully JD started to wake up because he was just in an awful slump. He started, hit a little bit. Jeff Hoffman came in and he just kept on getting wild. He threw a couple wild pitches and they never took him out. And the Mets essentially were like, all right, if we're not going to take the same guy out, we're essentially going to pounds. And that crowd, Ryan, at Citi Field, I know obviously you're a Yankee fan, but the New York crowds, specifically so far in this postseason, have been absolutely insanity. And Citi Field, I think, specifically was kind of ready to have that moment of just to absolutely go crazy because the first couple innings yesterday, they had bases loaded and they squandered them. Ranger Suarez was pretty much on the hook for a lot of the game, and he pitched a really good game. So it really wasn't his problem. It was coming to the bats. And Bryce Harper is one of my favorite players in the league, but in the postseason, he was not great at all. I mean, he obviously had some of his moments, but between him and Trey Turner, Alec Boehm, Kyle Schwarber, for the most part, you look at this overall lineup, it's a really good lineup, and they just did not show up. And part of it's because of the Mets pitching. Luis Severino, your old guy, is really kind of coming back to his own. He pitched really well I think it was the second game.
Yeah.
And Kodai Senga.
Harper, but
yeah, and even Kodai Senga came back, and I know that Kodai's still kind of working himself back up, but he pitched 3 really good innings for them. So everything is just really kind of clicking for them at the right time. They definitely give me the Arizona Diamondbacks feel of last year, man, where a team that just comes in and they're just really just riding the overall wave right now. And another thing, too, is Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso is just really starting to click ever since that homer that he hit in Milwaukee. His bat's starting to come a lot more alive. He looks a lot more confident at the plate. And if you get a really confident Pete Alonso, that could just definitely take you a long way. So, like you mentioned, everything's clicking for them. Without Shohei Ohtani, Francisco Lindor is the NL MVP. The guy's just coming up consistently, time and time again. And, against a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and Carlos Estevez to hit that ball out like that, just absolutely crazy. So, we'll see in terms of who the Mets play next, but I'm really happy for them, really happy for those fans. And it's the first time, Ryan, that the New York Mets have clinched a playoff series at Citi Field in the Citi Field era. So I'm just really happy for them. And Carlos Mendoza, your old guy, deserves a ton of flowers.
Yeah, he's done a great job this year, and he'll definitely get some NL Manager of the Year considerations. In my opinion, he should win NL Manager of the Year this year, considering where this team was at the end of May and where they are now. I mean, people were mocking the Mets at the end of May for
Remember Jorge Lopez?
Jorge Lopez. Yes,
Jorge Lopez was saying that it's the worst team in baseball. Oh yeah, he must be kicking himself.
he is. His jaw is probably on the floor right now. And ever since that moment, the Mets have just been a different team. There was Francisco Lindor called a meeting shortly after that,
That's
and
right.
basically that was a critical meeting, and that meeting probably saved the Mets season. It got everybody's head back on, everybody's head back on track, and the Mets have just been a force really since the summer. And honestly, they were probably the best team in the National League East. From the summer through the end of the year, they were probably the most
Crazy.
consistent team. Even though the Phillies won the National League East title, the Mets were probably the best team in the National League East this year. They were certainly better than the Phillies. I had the Mets winning the series, like I mentioned,
Yep.
and for the Phillies, they got a lot of question marks going forward. This is a big loss for them. Obviously, for a team that made the World Series just 2 years ago in
Yeah.
2022, you thought the future was bright for them, and they're
Turns out.
taking just a step. They're taking a step backwards every year. They made the World Series in 22. They lose in the National League Championship Series last year, and now this year they lose in the National League Division Series. You're starting to wonder, is this contention window starting to slam shut quicker and quicker? I mean, the
It's no
Phillies have.
excuses either. I mean, they have the pieces, so it comes down to it has to be the manager. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the Phillies' offense was terrible this series. Besides
That
Game
was that
Two,
too.
it
Yeah.
was absolutely it was a terrible showing. I mean, even though the Phillies, I was watching Game 4 yesterday, and the Phillies were leading for like the first 6 innings, but they couldn't add on. They just
Mhm.
could not add on to any lead that they had. It was only a 1-run lead. You need to score more, and they just did not do that.
There's a team like the Mets too who've been riding high. It just only took them like one swing, and of course that happened. So
And yeah, and not only that, they just kept playing with fire. The Mets had base runners on every inning, and the Phillies
mhm.
kept getting out of it. But I said it's only a matter of time before the Mets take advantage. And the Phillies just kept giving them way too many opportunities, and the Mets made them pay. Lindor with that grand slam, obviously off of Stevis. And yeah, I mean, Robbie Thompson he's facing a lot of criticism because he left. I forget who was the name of the pitcher before Estevez. But apparently, I think he left the guy before Estevez in too long. And by the time Estevez came in, the damage obviously became, what it was in a grand slam. But yeah, this is a tough loss for the Phillies. And the Phillies obviously have the names, they have the star power, but some of these guys are getting up there in age. Zach Wheeler is going to be 35 next year. I mean, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper and Trey Turner, they're all only 31. So you probably got a few more years, of them in their prime. But, if you're the Phillies, next year is like a must win. Like you need to get back to the World Series next year because it's only going to get harder and harder from here on out. This is a really bad loss for the Phillies and a bad look for them too, considering that they were the hottest team in baseball at the beginning of the first team in the majors to 50 wins. And to see them be the first team out of the playoffs, the first team from the division series out, it's not a good look. And they got a lot of guys with a lot of big contracts on that team. And but I mean, going into this season, I mean the Phillies didn't really make any big moves. Going into this season, I mean they brought in Whit Merrifield. That was their big off season. That was their big off season move. No, I mean you got to do something more than that. I
Yeah.
mean, Alec Bohm was a major disappointment in the playoffs this year. I know he had a pretty good regular season, but he failed to show up this postseason.
They
Um,
didn't add a ton to their biggest weakness too, and that's the bullpen. I mean, Carlos Estevez is fine, but you're bringing a guy from the Angels. A lot of people from the Angels typically don't succeed much, even though that he was their best pitcher and he throws 100 mile an hour. I was watching this Philly sports stream last night before I went to sleep, and he said that we essentially traded for two of our prospects for a pitcher that throws 100 miles an hour, but he's a fly ball pitcher. And of course, when he comes in after Jeff Hoffman, he gives up a grand
Jeff
slam.
Hoffman, that's who it was. Thompson was getting a lot of heat for leaving Jeff Hoffman in for too long, and
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say. I mean, Thompson has one more year on his current contract, but I think it's safe to say that he's on the hot seat going into
Definitely.
2025. If he doesn't lead the Phillies to the World Series next year, he's out of there. And I think the Phillies are gonna, and I think the Phillies are gonna consider making some coaching changes as well. I mean, Kevin Long, I know, is their hitting coach. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets canned during this offseason if they hire a new hitting coach because the Philly offense was just a major problem in the postseason. It was terrible. And that was the problem, obviously, coming back to Philadelphia for games 6 and 7 of the NLCS last
Mm.
year. I mean, the Philly offense just has not showed up. The Philly offense is very reliant on the home run, and they just don't play fundamental baseball that much. The Mets are a much more fundamentally based baseball team than the Phillies are. And, it came back to bite the Phillies in the ass. I mean, the Mets definitely deserve to win this series, and
Oh, yeah.
it's not a shock to me that the Mets won the series. I knew they were a better team, and I just find it, a little funny in a way how the Mets were able to defeat the Phillies in the playoffs, but the Braves weren't. How the Braves were the best team in baseball last year, yet
Mhm.
got upset by the Phillies for the second straight year, and
That's
yet
baseball season.
it only took the Mets one try for them to beat the Phillies. I guess that's baseball for you. And
Yep.
the Phillies, I think, had more motivation, I think, last year and the year before. I mean, I think they were definitely the most determined in 22, obviously, when they made it all the way to the World Series. I just didn't see that same spark this year in 2024 in this
Nope.
postseason. They were very lackadaisical sometimes. Their pitching was just very shaky. They did not have, I mean, besides Wheeler in game one, their starters were not great, and
Mhm.
their bullpen was just a disaster. And like we mentioned, the hitting just was not there either. So Phillies didn't deserve to win this series, and they have a lot of question marks going into 2025. And honestly, I think 2025 might be their last legitimate chance to win with this core group that they have right now. But they do need to make some changes. I
I
mean,
would not be surprised, Ryan. And I know that this obviously is kind of, I don't want to obviously jump the gun on any offseason stuff, but Juan Soto is obviously going to be a free agent. He's played specifically with Bryce Harper before, and Dave Dombrowski is well known for making an aggressive splash that can change. I'm not saying that Juan Soto would be a Philly, but he has obviously expressed that he want to play on the East Coast, and he loves obviously playing in New York. But if a team specifically just came out of nowhere and just threw a million bazillion bucks out there, um, I just feel like Dave Dombrowski, especially in the past years with him, he's just very aggressive, especially when things just keep on not going their way and stuff. And he's going to be extra extra aggressive this year. I really do. For somebody, I don't know who it's going to be.
well, Soto is certainly the biggest name on the market this offseason. So I do think the Phillies are going to try and get him. I think they'll make him an
We'll get
offer.
something.
They'll
Yeah,
make him an they'll give him an offer, but do I think Soto will take it? Probably not.
probably not.
I don't think the Phillies offer is going to be substantial enough to acquire Soto.
Like not
I
more
think
than the Mets
no, the Mets. I think it's going to come down to the Mets and the Yankees for Soto in
or
the
Dodgers.
offseason. And I don't know. I mean, the Dodgers keep getting everybody. Do they really need Soto at this point?
No, but I wouldn't
Like,
surprise me.
if they just want to put on an all-star team just to fill seats and make money, that's one thing. But the Dodgers are trying to win the World Series. I
Right.
mean, you're going to be robbing guys of. I mean, you already got you got Mookie Teoscar and freaking what's his name in center field. I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but
Oh, Kike?
Kike. Well, I guess Kike only signed a 1 year deal. I guess there could be a spot for Soto, but I don't see him going to the Dodgers.
Eh,
But
hope not.
but they already spent a crap load of money on Otani and Yamamoto. So I think the Dodgers
Right.
are actually going to take it a little easier in the offseason this year compared to last
Thank
year.
God.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if this would, work for them. I know Bregman's a free agent. I don't know if they would
Mhm.
consider maybe moving Bohm. I don't know. I mean, Bregman obviously has experience and he's a solid hitter. I don't know if that would necessarily be
Chapman?
a good fit.
Not Chapman?
I don't think Matt Chapman would be a good idea for them. Chapman
Mm.
is Chapman's another guy like he's a lot like Schwarber. He strikes out or hits the ball into the seats, and I don't think the Phillies need another guy like that. So I don't think
I
Chapman.
think Bregman would be good.
Yeah, Bregman might
Brings
be a
that
good
postseason
consideration.
too.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But the Mets are the first team to move on to the NLCS, first NLCS appearance for them in 9 years, and they made the World Series obviously that time around. So It's a crazy story. And what
American
else
League.
is crazy is that the Tigers are on the verge of upsetting the
Yeah.
Guardians in the American League Division Series. The Guardians right now are in a severe offensive drought. It's crazy that the Guardians started out that series in an explosive manner, scoring
Mm.
5 runs before the Tigers could even record an out in the bottom of the first inning in Game
Wow.
1. And now you look at them, you never would have thought that they did that. The Guardians right now haven't scored a run in 20 straight innings.
My God.
The longest streak. That's the longest scoreless postseason streak in their history.
I was gonna say in baseball. Like, when was the last time that's happened?
And a lot of fingers and a lot of finger pointing is going to Jose Ramirez. He has struggled mightily this series. I mean, obviously, right now Ramirez is only hitting 111 in this series against Cleveland.
Mm.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Jose Ramirez is a great player, and he's obviously been the face of the Indians/Guardians for basically almost his entire time being there. But he has not ever performed well in the postseason, really. Like he has not.
No.
He has not been a good postseason performer. I remember when the Yankees faced them in 2017. Like they shut him down. He just hasn't. I don't think he really has had.
There's been no moments.
He's had no postseason moments.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a career 233 postseason hitter with just 2 home runs. 2 home runs. The only postseason home. I mean, and I think both of them came in the wild card series in 22 against Tampa Bay, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was it.
It was probably one of those homers you just like, all right.
But yeah, I mean, he's just. I mean, right now he's had in 9 at bats this series. He is hitting just 111 with just 1 run batted in and a 495 OPS. Ugh. So I think he's only had.
I don't even know how many hits is that, like 2?
I'm looking at that one. I think it's only I think it might be 1. I think it's either 1 or 2 hits. It's either 1 or 2 hits. But yeah, he really needs to get it going, and the Guardians are in hot water right now. They obviously need to salvage this game for themselves today. Otherwise, it's over, and it would just be another disappointing season for them. And the Tigers obviously are just playing they're a lot like the Mets right now, where they're just playing loose, having fun. I mean, Game 2, what a dramatic moment that was with who was it, Carpenter, or was it Kerry Carpenter hitting the home? I'm sorry?
Kerry Carpenter. Mm-hmm.
Kerry Carpenter.
Or as people call him, Kerry Bonds. I don't know why, but that was just kind of in the past.
Well, he hit a 3-run home run off Emmanuel Clase in the top of the 9th inning of Game 2 that led the Tigers to a 3-0 win. And the Tigers have carried that momentum into the Motor City and completely shut down the Guardian offense in Game 3. The Guardians have been shut out back-to-back games, obviously losing in Game 2, 3-0, and they lost yesterday afternoon. They lost by a score of 3-0 as well. So they've lost back-to-back games by a score of 3-0. Wow. The offense is just non-existent right now, and. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? The Tigers pitching has been great. Tariq Skubal, rose to the occasion in Game 2, was just striking out his Guardian after Guardian. He pitched well. The Tiger bullpen has been very good too. Tiger bullpen has outpitched the Guardian bullpen. I mean, I don't think anybody expected Emmanuel Clase to give up a home run because he's just been so unhittable all season long.
Yeah.
But he was due, I think, at some point to struggle, unfortunately.
Well, there's a stat out there, Ryan, that he hasn't given a homer to a lefty. It felt like in the last 3-4 seasons. Some crazy stat out there that Kerry Carpenter was able to break. I'll get it to you maybe by next week. But I read something after the fact on Twitter. I'm like, oh my God. It was crazy stat. Because Emmanuel Clase is just that dominant. He throws a 100-mile-an-hour cutter that essentially it's like a faster Mariano Rivera cutter. It's insane. I'm obviously not comparing the two whatsoever. Mariano is an absolute legend, but Emmanuel Clase is absolutely disgusting. And I think that he hung one to Carpenter, and he just really got fortunate enough to hit it out. So, yeah, Gritty Tigers, they've been calling them all postseason, and it's living up to this name. They're up 2 on this series. I think we both called them to win this series. They're like the Mets right now. They're just riding high. They're playing with very loose out there. AJ Hinch, like Carlos Mendoza for the Mets. AJ Hinch has been absolutely clicking for a while now. And I think that when you kind of have the momentum for a long period of time, you just keep on riding it. Their offense, Ryan, and I talked to you about this off the air. The offenses and for both of those teams haven't really broken out per se, but the Tigers pitching's been so good that the Guardians really have to do something tonight. I mean, like they have to hit, they have to score, for it to be even a manageable type of series. I mean, because I think that the Tigers can finish it tonight. They're at home, kind of like the Mets Phillies series. They want to just kind of get this over with and at least have some time off before they're either going to be going to New York or, well, I guess if they, the Royals. What's the Royals seeding right now?
It's 2-1 Yankees.
No. But I'm talking like, what was the Royals seed specifically coming into the series?
They were the 5 seed.
The 5 seed. What was the Tigers?
6.
6. So the Tigers, yeah. So the Tigers, regardless if they win tonight, they would have to go on the road. So they kind of want to like save them, kind of like the Mets. They want to obviously save some time off before that, but they got to play tonight, and we'll see what happens. I just don't, with Scooble specifically potentially going for that last game, and what the inconsistency the Guardians have, I just don't trust the Guardians to pull this out. I just don't.
Also, that Carpenter home run was the first lefty home.
Yep.
He was the first lefty to homer against Class A since Ozzie Albies in July of last year. So it's been over a year. It's absolutely crazy. In the other American League Division Series, obviously, it's between the Yankees and the Royals. A reignition of a late 70s, early 80s rivalry. Right now, the Yankees lead that series 2-1. Giancarlo Stanton came alive in Game 3. He went 3 for 4. He had a single, a double, and a home run, and a stolen base. First stolen base since 2020. What a scene that was. When I heard Bob Costas say Stan's running, I said, wait, what? And then I saw, and then I was thinking, and I honestly expected him to be thrown out by 20 feet. And then when I saw him slide into second base well ahead of the throw, I went, wait, what the hell just happened? And I was completely in shock. But Stan right now has been the catalyst for that Yankee offense. The Yankee offense hasn't done much. They have not done much. The Royal pitching staff. I had a feeling that was going to be the case. In my opinion, of the 4 teams in the league, the Royals actually have the deepest pitching. I think they got the best rotation and the best bullpen. I mean, it feels like the Royals have so many lefties. Like it's insane. Every guy that comes out of the bullpen's a lefty. It's annoying. Like how many lefties does this team have? And they're trying to neutralize the Yankees with the lefties because the Yankees struggle against lefties, and for the most part, it's worked. Until last night when Stan hit a bomb into the left field stands, and he's a guy who the Yankees desperately needed to get going. So it's good to see Stan get going. Judge still has not done anything this postseason besides an infield single. So, although I will say he did have some better swings last night compared to the first 2 games, he did hit a couple of balls to the track. I do think it's only a matter of time before he runs into one.
Could be tonight.
Soto also hit one to the track as well. He could run into one pretty soon as well. And the Yankees currently are clinging to a 2-1 lead. They have a chance to clinch tonight with Garrett Cole on the mound. I did say the Yankees in 4, so we'll see if my prediction.
Yeah, I'm 5.
You had them in 5. We'll see if that comes true. But regardless, I think the Yankees had to win Game 3.
Yes,
because it's the swing game, and because I think the Royals are a dangerous team, and I think regardless of more, they had to put the pressure on the Royals more of these next 2 games. So the Yankees lead that series, and obviously there's one more series still going on, and that is between the Padres and the Dodgers. A lot of people are picking the Padres over the Dodgers. The Dodger pitching was very shaky coming into Game 3, where Walker Buehler struggled a lot. Well, he didn't get a lot of help from his defense in Game 3. Bad throw by Freddie Freeman, but good base running by Machado to have that throw hit off the back of his helmet. And Fernando Tatis Jr. has just been an absolute machine for the Padres this series. Absolutely ridiculous. However, the Dodgers kind of gave everybody a reminder that they're still here.
Yep.
And Mookie Betts has broken out of his long postseason drought. He's hit 2 home runs in back-to-back games, and the Padres blew out and shut out the Dodgers blew out and shut out the Padres in Game 4 last night, 8-0. So that series is heading back to Dodger Stadium for a deciding Game 5.
It was only a matter of time. We kind of expected.
Get your popcorn ready and get yourselves comfy because that should be a hell of a game. I'm sticking with the Padres. I think they're going to win. I know this is in Los Angeles. I know it's not an easy place to play. Dodger fans have kind of embarrassed themselves this series. They had very poor behavior in Game 2. They were throwing stuff at Jurickson Profar, Fernando Tatis Jr., and pitchers in the Padre bullpen. So they didn't necessarily do themselves any favor from the bad reputation that they already have around the league. And it's gonna be a big game. It's probably the biggest game in the history of the Padre-Dodger rivalry up to this point, because obviously the last time these two teams been in the playoffs 2 years ago, the Padres won that in 4. And pressure's on for the Dodgers. Pressure's on.
Yep.
And, we'll see if they respond. If the Dodgers lose Game 5, which I do think is going to happen at Dodger Stadium with that payroll and all those superstars, I mean, what else can you say?
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, the Padres have the most complete team for the most part. Although Dylan Cease wasn't cause for concern, he did not pitch well at all last night in Game 4.
Short rest.
And they already lost Joe Musgrove to Tommy John surgery, so he's gone for a long time. So the Padre rotation is getting
for them tomorrow.
What's that?
Who would start then for them tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I'm trying to remember who's starting Game 2. Let me check. I'm going to quickly check.
It'll be Darvish.
Well, no, it might be Darvish.
Yeah, he pitched Game 2.
Yes, so Darvish is going to be on the mound.
It'll be Darvish Flaherty probably.
And it's to be determined for the Dodgers right now.
I mean, if I were them, they don't really have a ton of options, but I'd probably go Flaherty.
I'd probably go Flaherty too. You picked him up at the deadline. You're probably going to have to roll the dice with him. And, we'll see where that goes. That's where the playoffs stand as of this moment. We're out of time here, and we'll see where we stand next week. We'll see who's in the league championship series. The NLCS is going to begin on Sunday. The American League Championship Series is going to begin on Monday. So by next week, we'll know who is going to be in those series. And we'll see where we head moving forward. But it's exciting. I'm obviously part excited, part nervous for tonight. Obviously, I hope the Yankees wrap it up tonight. I do not want to go back to Yankee Stadium I do not want to go back to Yankee Stadium for a deciding Game 5. So hopefully the Yankees wrap it up tonight, but we'll see what happens. And we'll see what happens with the Guardians and the Tigers. Will the Guardians take this back to Cleveland for Game 5? No. We'll see. A lot of questions. So tune in for this epic cinema that we have called Major League Baseball postseason tonight. So on behalf of Ben Kruse, I'm Ryan Touhey. We'll see you next time.